Hey guys, can you guys hear me? Let me know if the mic is too low or too high. I can change it. Before we get started, I'm going to do a little. I haven't checked this PS2 yet. We just got it in from eBay, the old eBay, so I need to make sure it actually works. Alright, cool. Audio looks good. Oh, the C-Sync mod, I think it's still there. I think I still have the instructions on my old dance projects website. I guess that's probably still working. So, it's just not really, like, C-Sync became not as popular or not needed as much anymore, so people don't really seem to care about that. Alright. This is going to be totally off the cuff. I haven't really prepped anything, so we'll see how this goes. I need to find a power cable. I'll wait a few more minutes before I get started, but because this is definitely impromptu. Alright, I got video. I just have this plugged in via composite right now. I'll check a disc too. Try GT4. Let me see if that C-Sync mod is on there. Looking at the chat. Yeah, just go to dansprojects.com and then, actually, I'll just paste it here in the chat. All right. Looks like the game's booting. Let me make sure there's audio. Yep, this looks good. Let me turn on a light in here. I didn't realize how dark it was. All right. I guess we'll get started. So this is a 5000 series or 50,000 series NTSC console. So let's just install a RetroGem Shiny inside. So just going to start with the basic teardown. But about the C-Sync mod, yes, I think it will still work after doing the mod. You just have to set it to component in the menu system of the browser. All right, this is still sealed, so never been opened. Hopefully, there's no roaches inside. And let's just, I don't want to say see how fast we can do it, but let's see how much trouble this one gives us. This is my first live stream, so we'll see how it goes. I almost prefer to do a live stream because I don't have to edit anything. It's just here. So that's what we're going to roll with. I'm just going to put all my stuff up here in the corner, and I'll move this out of the way. The fats, I would say, are very easy to install. It is a hard kit, but once you've done it a few times, it's really not too bad. I feel like the harder, the more time consuming is the slims that require the cuts. All right, let me get a razor blade. We're just going to slide the top off here. If this will come off. Oh yeah, sorry, bottom's got to come off. Oh, you son of a bitch. Give me a second here. This is like, warranty seal is like asphalt. Okay. Oh, I see. A tiny little gap right there. I usually pull the tape off. I decided to do X-Acto knife this time. We're not going to do any other work to this console. We're just going to put the gem in. We're not going to recap it or do anything crazy. So hopefully this live stream's not too long. So let's go ahead and roll the backside stuff off. And just because this is the way I do it doesn't mean it is necessarily the correct way or the best way to do it. It's just the way that I like to do it. So I'm trying to get more in camera here. And if there's any shots that are totally wrong, say something and I will change. Zoom out a little more there. Okay. We got access to the bottom. I'm going to, before I leave this, I'm going to unclip this. Put that to the side. We just have some more M3 screws right here that hold the power supply down. And it looks like we'll have to do the power supply cut on this one. like that bracket's going to be in the way, but we'll get to that when we get there. We're just going to set everything over here, and I'm going to I'm going to, as I'm unplugging all this, I'm going to set this back into the top case. And these are just plastic pieces I'm taking off, all the basics. I don't like to remove the drives, so I like just to sit this back in like so. It just kind of makes a nice stand. And then with that, I need a smaller screwdriver. This one will work. We're just doing basic disassembly still. And with all these kits, just go slow. If you're not sure on something, make sure you're sure before you continue, is all I would say. Three more screws left. And on this, I didn't go through all the tools needed. I kind of just doing a live stream. We'll see how things go. I can go into details about whatever. I plan on doing a lot of these live streams because I do need to model a lot of consoles, so I might as well just do them live while I do them. You know, maybe someone can pick something up, like a little helpful hint or anything. So this metal shield is unclips. We've got access to the motherboard. This is the area we're going to be soldering to right here. Before I do any soldering, though, I'm going to screw the heatsink back in, just barely, kind of hand tight. And that'll just keep the main board secured right there. I am going to replace the crystal with a smaller low-profile crystal. I would say that would be recommended you do that. It just makes the install a lot easier. All right, let's jump over to, I'm just going to go with full kit here. I'm going to jump over to the scope here. Get our flex cable and stuff out. But before I get too far, I'm going to do the gem jumpers. And, yeah. Do the gem jumpers first. All right, let me jump over to the overhead. My scope, I mean. All right. All right, since we're doing PS2, I think that's jumper J, and then the audio jumpers need jumped. So let's see if I can keep these to line up the same. Yeah, we need to do C, D, and E. So let's go ahead and jump those. This, I'm just using some leaded solder. I'm using liquid flux. It almost requires zero cleanup. I do have some non-liquid, but this is just easier to clean up for me. In a really hard situation, I'll switch to a paste flux. But for right now, it's easy just to use liquid. Okay. Now that the gem board is done, I'm going to set it back over here. Look in our PS2. So there's our crystal we need to remove. There's also some other components in the area that we need to pull off as well. All right, just continue on. I need my crystals right here. I have hot tweezers that make this really easy. Both of these ends get hot. If you want to use an iron, you gotta jump back and forth really fast, as this like has too big of a chisel tip, or you have to have a really big chisel tip to make that work. Almost impossible on this. So I'm going to use tweezers. Get a good set of grabbing tweezers too. I think this crystal is 18.432 megahertz. So if you do want to replace it, these just came from DigiKey. Nothing nothing out of this world. I'm going to try and use the existing solder right here. Try and just get it perfect. And right here, using like mixing leaded and lead-free isn't as critical since it's a big solder blob. And I know that I'm getting good adhesion all the way. I will switch to lead-free solder when I do the flex cable though. I still find that just the best way to do it. Let's go ahead and pull off some of these other components in this area. We need to pull off these two caps, and then this resistor and this cap. And I'll again use my tweezers for it. Just make quick work of that. These are pretty easy to swipe too, but oh, come on, stick. And I'll still clean up the area a little bit. I just like to have clean pads. Not really totally necessary. And I usually always have my iron set pretty hot when I do tweezers because there's usually a ground. My iron right now is 330. And it's having no problems working that up. Get a little more focus here. Go just a hair higher. Just trying to get my camera and my eyepieces matched together. Spray a little alcohol. Just checking some, reading some text messages, or not text messages, the chat here. Okay. I see there was a comment about the SPDIF wire. I'm not totally sure what you mean by breakout wire, like a DuPont cable. Really, just any wire is fine. I would recommend 30 gauge solid core. That's probably what I will be using. Maybe I'll use like a stranded 28 gauge. I don't know. Let's see if I get feeling frisky or something. All right, so I'm just prepping the area. So we're going to be soldering to, trying to get all this in focus here. We're going to be soldering to these areas, these areas, these areas, these areas. So what I'll do is I'm going to put a lot of liquid flux on it. I'm going to take my knife tip. I'm going to change tips here. I'm going to use a knife tip similar to this size. I'm going to put my iron up pretty warm, probably 350, 360, and I'm going to really zoom in here on these pins. And then I'm just going to bring this solder to life. And the grounds will be tougher. You can see the solder actually going on top of the pin. That's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to pull the solder so it goes to the top. On this is not as critical on this section, but do the same thing. I'm just trying to see the little bevel change on the top. And I'm not removing any solder. I'm not adding any solder. I'm just waking these pins up. And this chisel tip works really well, for me at least. I'm going to go over here. There's a big ground right here, so don't necessarily stay focused on that too long. You can see that old flux kind of burning up. Yeah, see, now we're getting some good flowing on these pins now. Okay. Hopefully that was not totally out of focus. Go back in here and knife this just a little bit. Just pull a little solder out of that. Okay. So I'm going to start with the main flex here. It's going to align like so. I do need to put some Captain tape down still, but I'm just getting my hookups. So I've got 5 volt right here, 3.3 on this. So let's get some Captain tape out. I should have pulled that out, because 1 second here, just looking for some tape. When you're looking to see where to put Captain tape, this is kind of what you're looking for. So I'm going to zoom in here onto this. So you can see that this pad right here is is exposed. So like this pin could easily short out to that pin if we're grabbing a pin there. This not really, because you can see that it's like this. So this is the pad that we're worried about. And then similarly over here, we don't really have that issue. That's really what you're looking for when you want to block something with Captain on these kits. We're just going to take a real tiny, small piece of tape. I'm just going to set it over the top like so. Cut her out a little better. Spin this around. It's okay if it's a little slippery. It'll stay once everything dries. Let's zoom back out. And then we're going to put a little piece of Captain right here in this area, because the 5-volt hookup is going to sit on top of that via, and that via will short out. So we just need to protect that via. So grab another piece of Captain here. Like I said, I'm not really worried about these, because it's really hard for that to short out to anything. All right, now that we have our Captain on, we're going to do our flex. Let me check the chat real quick. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Sorry, this stream's probably not super exciting, but hopefully people can reference it later and be able to get some good information from it. So how I do it, let me zoom out here all the way. So I just line my flex up. And then, so right there is actually pretty good. I'm going to compare my pins over here, make sure they're lined up. And they are. So I always start in the center of the cable and work my way out. So I'll always, actually looks like I got a bridge right there already. I'm just cleaning those vias up. Pull that off. Okay. I'm always just putting, since I use this liquid flux, I'm always just putting tons of flux down all the time, because it's always, even when I'm not soldering to it, it's currently evaporating. Yeah, I'm saying that right. And it'll just disappear over time. So I'm going to start in the middle pack right here. I'm not even adding any solder yet. I'm just going to kind of barely rub my iron over the top. See if I can just get one connection, and I did. Now that I got one little tiny connection, I'm going to start using leaded solder here. Or lead-free solder, I should say, not leaded. I'm just going to put a little on my tip. Now I'm going to switch to a tweezers. I'm going to hold the cable in some areas where, you know, I'm not going to hurt any traces. And I'm just going to put a little bit of goop down. I haven't put much on my iron, just a little bit. More flux. You don't have much rework time when you are using leaded solder or lead-free solder. I'm going to get zoomed in real close here. Hopefully it looks good on camera. The reason why I just use leaded solder or lead-free solder on this is it's required if you don't wash it, but I don't want to wash it. And this knife tip allows you to transport solder from one pad to the other. Just took my iron down a couple notches. I was at 350. I was a little hot, but that's okay. It just depends how fast you move it. You kind of just have to see if, like, sometimes my iron gets stuck. More flux. I'll actually put my heat back up a little bit. Okay, got one little bridge there left. I'm going to let that cool down and get back to that. So now we're going to work on this edge. This edge usually requires a little bit more heat because of those grounds, those those 4 pins right there. So I won't focus on those first. I'll focus on these 2 pins. And there I'm just going to kind of do just an up and down swipe motion. And you can see I actually made that connection. I'm going to make that a much better joint. But I always like just to get a little tack into place, and then I add solder. Because sometimes if you have solder on your iron and you drop it in, you get this big plump that just sucks right in, and then it just sucks to deal with that. So it's just kind of the way that I like to do it. Here I'm just adding some solder. Just trying to add a little bit more to the area to get some better fillets. Okay. Those look good. Let's go back to this bridged spot right here. Add a bunch of flux. Let's pull that right out. Let's go to this side. Flip her around. And you can see, since I already prepped those pins, I I have that nice solder that's just sitting there ready to be activated. I'm going to do the same thing as before. Just going to try and tack a pin in. And then once I get a pin in, add more flux, and then we'll put some solder on our tip. Moved on me a little bit. These are some power planes over here, ground, so a little bit more heat is required. Maybe not more heat, but more finesse. Okay, that looks pretty good. Our next hookup point is going to be right here on this cap. This is the 3.3 rail. Let's switch sides again. And so now we need to run audio flex over, and then also this to this. So we're going to do that first. When I usually just grab like a leg of a, let's see, grab like the leg of just like a pin header, and that's what I'll use to jump it. I won't use a wire. Not that you need to use this big a gauge, but I find it just kind of looks kind of easier. So what I'll do is just kind of get my size matched up here. I'm just going to take a real small piece of leg material right here. I'm just going to set it like that. Let's see if you can see this. Yep. We're just going to set it right there. Get some solder underneath that. I'm going to turn my iron way down here. Not way down, but lower. Alright, that's okay. So that's the 5-volt hookup. Now we'll do the audio pins here. Let me zoom out. It just folds around. More flux. Here I'm just going to bring that pin alive. we can get it to go. It's not going. Let me get some juice on my iron here. Silver juice. I kind of like to use my finger more than tweezers sometimes. Okay, let's zoom in here and see what we're looking like. We're a little too close, so let's back up a little bit. That looks better. Sorry if this is out of focus. My iron's probably a little too low on heat. Let me go up a little higher. So I am using lead-free. Okay. Successful joints. And we're just going to flatten this cable. Alright. We need to desolder this little toslink port. Some of these pull right off. I hope this is the one that pulls off. And it's not, unfortunately. So let's see what is the easiest way for me to remove this. I'm going to take a big chisel tip. Take a big chisel tip. It's almost as wide as the flex, or half the width. I'm going to see if I can heat all. Yeah, I think that'll work. I can heat up all 3 pins at the same time. You won't be able to see this on camera, but but I've just got my console right here. The 3 pins are accessible right underneath here. So I'm going to go on this. I'm going to put my iron almost at max. Almost at max. I'm going to use leaded solder, not lead-free this time. This tip hasn't been used in a while. This tip may be a little too old. Bring it back to life here. There's too much oxidation on this tip, so no solder will take to it. We'll do it a different way. I'm just going to grab a fat tip that has a well on it. Try that. Tips of the wells are nice because you can just fill it with solder, and it really kind of just stays there. So here we're just going to touch the bottom of these pins. Get a little more solder in there. It's also pretty easy to just cut these off, but so there just pull right out pretty easily. Okay. Put that iron back, and that iron's nothing special. That's just a normal iron. Just has a bigger tip on the end, so I don't have to switch out tips all the time. So we need to solder a wire to the SPDIF. So let's go ahead and use. Yeah, the solder mask actually is a good idea. It's like UV, like it activated with UV light. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, that would definitely be a good thing to try versus Kapton tape. Actually, should pick some up to try it. So I'm going to solder this wire like so. Actually, sorry, like this. And solder on this pin. This adds the SPDIF input to the gem. Yeah, I get close up at soldering on wires too. When you have a microscope, you almost become, I don't know, you almost want to do everything under the microscope, even if it's big, 2.54 millimeter stuff. You still want to put it under the scope, because you just see everything that's happening. All right, so the next step is the controller flex. Just the fun jobby. And I think that we do I think it sits. It sits like so, but I'm going to double check it. Because if you install this, it's almost impossible to remove it. Check that installation here. Alright, so yeah, it's on the fourth one over. I'm going to do my normal thing I do. Just bring this kind of flux alive, or not this flux, this old solder. There's no solder on my iron tube. I'm just heating this up. You can see all the bubbling going on. So all I'm really looking for is just some of that bubbling. Put a ton more flux on. Put a little bit of solder. There wasn't much. Those looked pretty dry. So I'm going to put a little bit of solder on my iron here before I even do the first go. Set it like that. Should be right. Fourth one over. Okay. I've seen people pre-tin these. I think that does actually work pretty well. My problem is right now what I'm doing is I don't have any solder that's actually touching the pin. It's balled up on my iron here. Let me kind of readjust here. Having a good clean tip can be key for a lot of things. set this up with some pliers, or not pliers, tweezers. My hand's not steady enough. Give me a second here. Be able to just get some more force on it like this. Well, it's got a bridge, so that'll be fun to mess with. Before I touch that bridge, though, I'm gonna try and get the other pins here. Clearing that bridge with the iron will probably be impossible. But we'll see. And then we got 2 bridges. Perfect. 3 bridges. Bridges galore. All right. Take a little bit of soldering braid. Get out of there. There you go. Okay. Before I put any more solder on, I want to double check that with my meter. Since I know I bridged it, it's easy for these to bridge and get stuck. Could the flex have been designed to reach the point without needing to bridge the gap with the wire? Yes, and it is. There is revisions where you don't have to use the wire to bridge that gap. So, but that's why there's only so many revisions it could support. All right, here we got my meter. Test these. These are flute probes, carbide tips. I really recommend them. They last a long time, and they are super sharp, and they just don't get really very dull. So I recommend those. All right, controller flex is on. I'm gonna zoom out. And then the same thing over here. Solder the other end. Like so. Wires always face up. The traces, I mean, on the cable face up. It's an easy way to tell which is up. I'm going to use I'm trying to get solder on my iron here while I hold this in the air. Hold this my hand down, so bear with me here. Okay. I'm just going to lightly bend the flex so it stays flat. We're almost done with soldering here. Luckily enough. One more thing to do is the reset wire, which Let's see if I can remember which pin it is. I think it's that. I don't know. Gotta look. Gotta look. Let's see. Gonna check the docs. This is the 26. This is the 23. GH23, and that is the topmost test point. This jobby right here. I just add solder so I know which wire to use or which to go to. I'm just running some wire here. I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. Got some gross looking stuff on there. Tip looks nasty. Clean it off. All right, there's the one end done. Okay. I can't see the chat where I'm at, so I'll check it here in a second. I just put the other reset wire on. Okay. All right, let's come back over to the overhead. We should be almost testing soon. Okay, so you can see how I ran my reset wire. Still have these two screws in. I'm going to test this right now. So first thing is that is crucial. If you're actually kind of uncertain, you always can put the metal case back on, but I'm okay with it. And this is still obviously not plugged in. Let's route this out first. I'm going to route the cable like so. I'm going to put this back over the top to hold it down. Get my stuff organized here. And the gem board can just sit outside the case like this. Plugs in like so. One thing we need to do, we need to plug the controller back in so I can test that. So let's do that. sit so it's not shorting anything out. Oops, that's right. I'm on the wrong controller. Okay, let's get some power. And we should be able to test. Now, I didn't check for any shorts, but I did this underneath the scope. So I'm pretty confident in my soldering. But always, if you're not sure, always check. Let's go ahead and hook up HDMI cable right here. Just gonna let that kind of float. Cool little thing. Guitar clips for I don't know. I don't play guitar, but they can clip on wires to the edge of desks, and they're super handy. So I'll just clip that HDMI cable right there. Won't go anywhere. All right, let's go ahead and switch to power it on. Let's go to our input feed and see what we get. All right, we've got controller. I got OSD access. My laser's spinning here. There's a game in here. Let me check this out. Now let's do a debug. That looks pretty good. I need to check audio. Let me see how audio is running on this. I do think you probably, can you guys hear the audio actually on there, or can you not? I actually haven't checked this. Okay, so it is very low. Let me do a full reboot here. Yeah, okay. All right, cool. All right, we're gonna go and power down. Make sure the first thing you do is disconnect the AC. Pull this away. Oh, let me switch back to the overhead. Appreciate the people watching. This is something I don't do very often. I really dislike being on camera, or actually I don't mind being on camera, but I don't like to watch myself be on camera. So if I have to like edit this video, I just like cringe myself out in the way I don't know, I just do. So the next steps is we're going to put shield back on, but first we need to remove the Toslink support bracket. This just fatigues off right here, this piece. I found these pair of pliers. I actually love them. I don't know what they're for. Maybe for fencing. But I found them at a garage sale for a couple dollars. And they have this flat, I don't know. It works really well for flattening sheet metal like that. And it has a real nice flat end. So it just works well to fatigue off. And then let's take these two screws out. And you don't necessarily need capstan tape on these wires, as long as they're placed appropriately and not in any screw hole paths. They're not going to if they move around, I mean, they're just not going to move around. They're just almost permanently there. So sometimes I put it on there, sometimes I don't. Just depends what I'm feeling like. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put all the screws back into the heatsink here, or the metal shield. There are 2 screws that are different. That go, they have a coarse thread, a plastic thread, and they go into the expansion port right there. So they're pretty easy to ID. This one's the different one. So the 30K, it's not necessarily incompatible. It just has a different DAC than these, than the 39 or 37K and up, or 37K and up they have a different DAC. So I'll probably make an adapter for that, but there's no, there's no time frame when I'm going to do that. I'll probably do that next, I don't know, maybe first part of next year. And that way you'll just use the standard fat kit, but you'll just have a jumper flex that'll hook up this flex to the 30K series. So next steps here. So I always kind of forget to put this this Bajabi in. Broke it off that, so I actually kind of do that sometimes next. I don't know. This is kind of like a Wild West point now, what is the best way to go forward. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to flip this over. Take that off. I'm going to slide that in there. Screwdriver. And then I'm going to go ahead and put our stuff back on here. Am I doing this backwards? I don't think so. Put in the fan. Grab our spacer. Okay, now this bracket is going to sit on top of there. And let's go ahead and just drop this guy. Oh, yeah, we need to cut this off. So this is going to make contact. Let's see where we're sitting at actually. These parts are for the 39K. So this is 5,000, it doesn't matter. So you can see when this sits right here, I'm going to get into contact with this shield because the gem is going to sit right here. So let's go, let me take a look at this real quick. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to unscrew this. And then I'm gonna show you where does this come off at. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull this heatsink off and then just fatigue bend it right there. I'll switch over to, go back to the scope. This is as far as I can zoom out on my scope, so you can see that this bracket goes under, not bracket, but this metal sink is hooked up down through here. So we're going to just add some solder to these areas. I'm going to use lead free. I'm sorry, I'm going to use leaded. Make sure it gets this one. This actually needs to be rotated. This is one of those spin-offs. And here's the other one. I'm just going to add some fresh solder. I'm going to use solder wick to remove this. At least that's my plan. These are only single-sided PCBs, so it's a lot easier to remove components on these. I didn't mean to say single-sided, I mean only one copper layer. I'm just going to twist this. Looks like there's another spot right here in the middle I'm missing. Some power supplies have stuff in the way, some don't. Just depends. So far I think there's been 3 versions identified. And I don't think there's a way to know exactly which one yours has. Okay, yeah, so that was actually pretty easy to pull that off. Just using solder braid. Got a little bit of a joint still on this one. So there's the bracket removed totally. And you can see this is what it looks like with it removed. So, label this, put this back in. I pretty much just need to go to about right here. So I'm just going to bend this over an edge. Let me grab my trusty garage sale pliers. Let me just fatigue this off. Almost got it here. Another pair of pliers here. I'm just fatiguing off this metal bracket still. Just trying to make a nice kind of clean looking cut, but let's see how it comes out. Here, let me switch over to this so you guys can see what I'm doing. So, file this just a little bit so you can see where I fatigue cut this off. I would say if you have a Dremel, that would probably be the preferred way, or a hacksaw, but I want to go searching those tools down. So just bend it off with pliers. It's not perfect, but we'll see what it looks like when it's installed. Alright, I'm just soldering this back on. Just real quick. Okay, that's back on. Alright, so as you can see, that has a lot more clearance now. And then let's go ahead and prep this. Mount the gem board. Where's all the kit stuff? These just slide together like so. I just like to pre-thread both of these screws in. Where's my, oh, there it is. These are the M1.6 screws. 2mm screws will fit through the holes too. If you ever were like in a bind, you could force that in. It doesn't really damage anything. But the 1.6 is just fit a little nicer. Okay, there's our board mounted. These need to go underneath. This actually fits on the inside, so you shouldn't have to cut this bracket at all. It should be on the inside. Let's go ahead and secure this down. Just with the factory screws. Make sure there's nothing that's being any issues. Oh, it looks okay. Screw the back on. so while I'm here, I'm just going to do a look. So someone said that the antenna where it's mounted up here could cause a problem. Maybe the adhesive's permanent, but I wanted to see if I could put an antenna through the top side. So I'm going to do that first. I don't think it'd actually be that bad. I think this will be pretty easy. I think I can just thread this through right here. Let's see. Should have put it through first. Let's see if I can get it. I got it. All right, so I was able to thread this underneath. Let's go and try this way. We want to go on the other side of this, maybe. Just trying to get my cable routing here to look nice and neat. When I usually do the cable routing, I don't bend anything or crease anything until I have everything plugged in, and I kind of just see how it wants to lay. So there's different options we can do here. Plug this antenna back on. So there's the antenna routed through. I usually like to bend the flex back over itself, like so, and that way it doesn't make contact with anything, so when the case sits on it, it blocks the fan in. Next we're going to run the SPDIF wire. I'm going to go to pad F, the bottom side of it. I'm going to prep that wire real quick. Jump over to the scope, solder it on. We're going to solder to the bottom of pad F. This is leaded solder. We're going to solder at the bottom of this pad. I need to use tweezers. My fingers can't do it. All right, there it's mounted. Let's jump back over to the overhead. Let's finish putting it back together. Okay. Oh, I did forget one critical thing. I took that screw out of that, I don't know if that's a MOSFET or if it's some type of switching regulator. Or not switching, but... Oh my god. I need to screw that back in. Okay. I'm going to put the tray back in just to support it as I flip it. So I want to look at to see how this can route. to see if this makes contact with this guy. I'm going to take this off and just lift it up a hair. Go underneath there. Let's see if that can make it. And it can, so that's an area to mount the antenna to. I'll mount it on the top side, see how well it performs. Signal integrity wise. Okay, I guess I'm going to mount it probably on just top of the fan right here. Being away from metal is preferred. I'm just going to mount it right there on the fan itself. Like I said, anywhere, but being on like a vertical section is better than being flat for reflectivity purposes. These are screws we don't need. Let's see how this works. Controller needs backup. Just talking to myself. I guess we don't necessarily need to get back on the bottom side. But I'm going to flip to the top and test first. I need to plug the power in still. All right, so let's test again. HDMI. All right, let's see what we got. All right. Still got everything working here. Ooh, wow, that's not looking good. G2, huh? So the main test pattern is not a good screen to really I feel like it might have a little bit of a banding issue. It's hard to see. Let me reseat this cable. Okay. Yeah, see, there's not much red in the picture, so that's why R0 and R1 are, now we got R7 is low, but they may not be. Let's go to the browser here. Yeah, so it's fine. No, there's definitely some color banding issues. Let's do a little meter test on it and see what we get. So let's check that real quick. Let's power off. And before we get too far, and just probably me bending the flex got a joint that was already pretty weak. Just loosened up to where it's not making good contact anymore. Okay, so we'll just flip this back over. Oh, sorry. Jump back over here. I should have checked that screen before I put it up, but you know, I guess I was feeling too confident. Undo all of our screws again. Before I take this off, I want to set it back in the case. Fortunately, this is just usually part of the install sometimes. And usually when I have an issue, I'll just go with metering first. I really thought we were going to be done there. Alright, let's see what we're working with here. Drop my controller. Alright, let's switch over to our scope. All the color lines are on these resistor packs. So, I'm just going to start with this first one. I really probably can check on the back side, and it should get 47. So those two are shorted right away. These two right here. Oh, I actually think I can see it. See that little, It goes black, but it goes back clear. See this little blob that comes over, and then there's a little tiny finger. I think that's what the short is, what we're seeing. This is why it's always good to meter. I should take my own advice. I'm just gonna. So these are metered to. This is also 0 ohm. Yeah, so there's another little joint right there. A little tiny whisker. Right there. So that one we need to clear. All right. Can use flux. You can see that joint right there. I'm just going to touch it. Okay, that looks clear. Let's clear this one. All right, let me recheck them. So there is still a little nub there. I don't like that, so I'm going to try and clear that little, just that little tiny speck out. All right, that's better. Okay, we're going to go back together. Let's come back over here. At least that looked like that was a pretty easy fix. Sometimes you can get joints that you can't even see. You mean even under that microscope, that it's the way the light hits it, or the way you just can't see the joint because it's underneath, or so metering is always the best, because you could have like a high, like, you know, like let's say you have a joint that's like 100 ohm short. It looks fine at initial startup, but you know, give it a couple hours of heat up time, and it may short over time with the heat from thermal expansion. So it's always just, I should have done it. I don't know, being lazy or whatever you want to call it. And let's see, this guy needs to go in. Slide all this stuff back in. Really putting a lot of stress on that tiny little wire, but she's holding still. I'm just holding this on my lap. It's easier just to manipulate it like this. Okay. Route this antenna through here. I'm still here. Before I break this off, I'm gonna undo this wire real quick off for the spiff because I feel like I'm just gonna rip this pad off. Just playing with fire. So just gonna route those under. Plug her in. Oh, come on, buddy. Gotta plug it in the right way. Okay. Okay. Antenna's in, just making sure it's not pinched. There's that wire. There she is. Plug our antenna back in. Let me do the spiff wire. I'm just going to resolder it back to that pad I had before. right. Back to where we were. Almost. Slide this bottom on. We're gonna flip it. Put our controller back in. Got two of these here. Hopefully I grabbed the right one. Okay, so let's try her again. Let's see what we got. Well, this is a good live stream. Glad something didn't work right. Gave us time to troubleshoot. Let's see what we get. Okay. Okay. Getting better hearts this time. Let me see if that, yeah, so that banding's all gone, or that flickeriness. Since those were bridged, you had those lines where, you know, you obviously always had missing data. Couldn't get all the colors. So looks good now. We've finished sealing this up. Just to go ahead and complete it. And then I usually, after I do a console, before I don't want to say I put the top on, but I will run this for, I don't know, probably a couple hours, and just make sure that everything looks okay, and then let it cool down and run it again. Let me jump back over to the overhead here. Putting the final screws in. So yeah, so you can see that's where the mini HDMI sits. It's behind the port. And then these long ones go in here. And I think I hope it's gonna be that long one goes up there. Let's just tighten her on. And then we'll actually try a game here. Okay. Let's give her another boot up here. Let's see if she'll still boot a game here. I imagine that these have pretty weak drives in them. I think they were sold, I think they were considered for parts, but they said that they could have just, I don't know. I usually try not to buy broken things, but I also don't like to spend a ton of money for something that I know it shouldn't be worth that much. If that doesn't sound weird, I guess I'm getting old. Let's see, will this boot? I'm guessing this laser is pretty crappy. Yeah, I'm trying to do a game right now. You know, I want some OPL. I think I have a little setup right here I can do. So I've only got one game on this memory card. Ooh, I'm hearing clicks from the DVD drive, so clearly it's got some issues. Needs a little bit of TLC. Would I recommend buying the Pixel FX? I mean, it's a pretty good kit. I'd recommend it. I mean, if you're looking for the best option for the PS2, I mean, this is it. You know, so if you want the best, I mean, yeah, it's the Pixel FX kit's the best. I'm obviously a little biased though. So yeah, I've got SS Tricky here, or SSX Tricky. You guys should be able to hear the audio. I'm using booting with a USB drive, so loading time's pretty slow.
EA Sports.
Big.
This is gonna be very, very
Is that too loud?
interesting.
Probably pretty good. Let me read through some of these comments. I really haven't been paying
I
attention.
hope you're ready.
I actually can't hear the audio. I was just turning the audio down through OBS. That may be why. Let's see here. We should be able to.
How do you want to play?
So to go ahead and do a firmware update real quick.
World
So the easiest way to
Series.
do a Wi-Fi
Are you
update,
the best?
if you have a phone,
Prove it here.
is scan the QR code, the first one that comes up. It'll ask you if you want to join the Wi-Fi network. You do. And then the QR code will change after you connect, and then you just scan it again, open in Chrome or open whatever browser you use on your phone, and it takes you through a wizard where you select your SSID and then password. So I'm going to update this kit real quick. After you save it, it'll restart. And we're going to See, I'm connected. I'm just gonna update the firmware. I know there's already one there, so I don't need to check. It'll just download. Oh, actually, no, it should be marked as stable. So let's run through this. Does the audio still sound finicky, or does it sound normal? PS1 games, this laser I think needs to be re-massaged. Probably just needs a whole new lens, so I doubt PS1 games won't boot, but I could try it, but I'm going to update the firmware first if I want to test the SPDIF. I was messing with the dB gain and OBS on the settings when you said it was finicky. So, but yeah, it could have been FMV too. I actually can hear the laser clicking in here while this game's running. Would you say the audio is too loud? Like to overhear, like is my voice quite a bit louder than the audio, or is it similar, or? Yeah, I'm updating the latest version. There was a change with the SPDIF, so I want to check the DTS option. So that's in the latest firmware. However, I thought it was tagged on stable, but maybe it's on testing. But I'm pretty sure it's on stable. I'll look here in a second after it finishes. Yeah, the analog port still functions completely normal. So you can, yeah, you can use analog and HDMI simultaneously. %. Okay, this is gonna reboot after not the whole console, just the retro gem. Daniel G asked how does the analog function 100% when you remove some of the caps. The caps are actually on the flex cable you install. So the caps that you remove are actually already on the new cable. It's the components that are, you know, on the tip. The caps are actually relocated on here. And then the resistor is a 0 ohm resistor to ground. So the pin's already grounded, so the resistor is a dummy. It makes no difference. So the analog is totally unmodified. Let's see. Yeah, so we have an audio mode of SPDIF. Looks like you guys still have audio. Let's check look options real
Options.
quick.
Sound.
This game always kind of hangs when you switch from to DTS to surround. It looks like it does not work. Looks like my capture card does not work. Here. What, you guys hearing some weird audio or something? I don't have external speakers hooked up, so I can't really hear the gameplay audio. I just switched to DTS, but I'm guessing my capture card doesn't support DTS, so it's just not working at all. Because right now I am using the SPDIF output pin right now. We'll just leave it on surround.
Options. Select mode. Practice. Single event. Select character.
I actually, on these kind of like,
Who do
on
you
these
want
kind
to
of
play with?
early 3D games, I actually prefer FXR on. You almost can't even tell I'm turning it on, but
Enemies.
it just has a little bit of up-res to it. I'm not sure if I'll leave it on 1080p. I'll mess my captures up if I change it otherwise. We're gonna leave it there.
Marisol.
So we want Afro Man, BX, Freestyle.
Simon.
We'll
Bro.
definitely go with this guy.
Simon.
Oh, 6 gold
Bro.
medals.
And
Go Afro Man.
Right on, baby.
set up character. Select event. Select difficult. Select.
Don't rate my gameplay. This is definitely a Woozle thing. Woozle's the player. I do like driving games. Gran Turismo 4 is my go-to for PS2. But you know, snowboarding similar to racing.
The sparkling gem and first stop in the SSX World Circuit. Garibaldi is a... You have an ally in this race, but only one can win.
Well, we're gonna knock the crap out of JP.
Go! How you doing out there? This is Roselle. Let's hold up your boost with tricks.
I should play this game more. Looks pretty fun, actually. I mostly just, I would say, I just test games. I boot a game up, look at it. On do tricks. Ooh, come on.
Inacquired.
Well, looks like things are working pretty
Wake me
good.
up when I'm winning. Ah! Oh!
The only, so I have GT4 here on disc, but this console is not reading disc right now, so I'm using OPL through USB, and I only have this one game on the drive. But we're only able to pass through the 1080i. Now, Woozle does think there's he has a trick he wants to try with something to see about, I don't know, with the 1080i content, but really the 1080i will just be passed through. With the next firmware release, we're going to add pass-through mode, so you'll be able to use all the usable normal resolutions. of the PS2 in direct mode. There's like a boost or something here. Or am I missing something?
Yeah, that's a good trick.
Yeah, you can use GSM. This was more just like an install test. This wasn't really like demoing the content of the game. So that's something that I'd like to do more live streaming and just have some more check things out here and there. I don't have GSM loaded up on this, but 480p obviously looks a ton better than 480i. And you're almost doubling the resolution in a way. So yeah, 480p looks amazing on this. But you know, 480i looks pretty good too.
Give my regards to the finish line.
Oh yeah.
Yikes!
Ooh.
That felt worse than it looked. Ah!
So yeah, any other
Red
questions?
leader to base. I'm hit.
Yeah, the audio is probably from the USB. I need to replace the drive on this. Well, GSM, I think that GSM can be useful if it's actually changing the internal resolution of the game. If it's doing some of the trick to where it's faking it, you know, then it doesn't really
Player
matter.
one, get out the knitting needles.
I mean, I've got a couple backwards compatible PS3s, but I don't know. I would call myself a purist when it comes to pixels. So, and I just like original consoles. And PlayStation's the console I grew up with. I have my original save games and everything on that. So,
I came, I saw.
you know,
I
it's
kicked
subjective of
some
which
booty.
is important to you and what,
A
you know,
second
what, there's
place
not
finish
one
and
right
record
answer, and
time.
there's not one answer that fits everybody's shoes,
Oh,
you know, in that sense. So. All right, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to go make some dinner. Thanks for hanging out, watching. Appreciate. Let me see one other question. Do you plan on selling other full kits for N64? What do you mean? Are you willing to sell other full kits? Yeah, Dimitri, I'm not really sure what you're actually asking.
You gotta be
The
kidding
fat kits
me.
are on back order, not back order. I'm just waiting on
Hey, Brody!
on 3D printed parts
Talk
for
about
the
hitting
mounts.
bottom. Down!
Oh,
Get ready to start.
yeah, the full kits will be. I just haven't posted the full kits because I essentially ran out last week, a week and a half, and then I've been waiting on new parts to come. So those will get posted within probably next week or this week, late this week. I'm actually going to pack fat kits tomorrow and Wednesday, and that'll get me back in kind of stock. So those will be back soon. All right. Thanks for watching the stream. Hopefully you learned something, or you know. So have a good day. Talk to you guys later.